If you take away or erase these boundaries within you, you will see whether you sit, stand or sleep, you will be joyful. 95% of the human suffering is all generated from within. Self-help, it's called. Anxiety doesn't come knocking. You are becoming anxious. Because, see, we're calling it by different names. Essentially, it is life. If it's exuberant, in its exuberance, it may be joy, it may be blissfulness, it may be ecstasy. Well, if it's relatable, it may become love. These are all different manifestations of exuberance of life. Joy is not a philosophy that you take on. It's just that this life, when it functions in an exuberant manner, not in a depressed way, in an exuberant manner, that means if you open the cork, it is exuberant. If you close it and keep it, then it becomes depressed. So what is opening and closing when it comes to life? See, the fundamental thing is this, well, once you become a human being, what it means is, all other creatures are instinctively bound by boundaries. In a way, the highest point of evolution on this planet. That means the finest life on this planet must be us. Well, we are proving to be otherwise, that's a different matter, but actually we are the finest life on this planet, most intelligent, most refined, most capabilities in terms of our faculties, everything. So if this is the finest life, if you look at the longing of this life, what you would see is, whoever you are right now, you want to be something more than who you are right now. Once you become a human being, you're always seeing how to expand your boundaries, because what you call as human begins to kick in only when survival is taken care of. When survival is in question, we are like any other creature, biological entities of food, sleep, reproductive needs and survival, essentially. So this dimension of longing to expand is not about more, it wants to expand limitlessly. So the simplest thing is, if one is not identified with the limitations of one's own physical self, one's family, one's community, if your identity is not like a limit on your ability to expand, then life will be naturally exuberant. When it's exuberant, one form of its expression is joyfulness. So joy is not a practice, joy is not a philosophy, joy is not your ideology in life, nor is joy coming down to you from heaven, because this has happened to the world that all the beautiful things that human beings have been exported to heaven. If you say peace, people say divine peace. If you say love, they say God is love. If you say joy, people will say heavenly joy. No, these are all human things. Your peacefulness, your joyfulness, your loving nature, all these things can happen within you when you are willing. When I say willing, when you are a willing piece of life. You become a willing piece of life only when your identities are not limited. If you put a limit on your identity, then you are willing with one set of people, you are unwilling with another set of people. So in this, it is corked and there is no exuberance to this. But if you take off this cork, because this whole thing is just a mental thing that you have fixed up boundaries for yourself, if you take away or erase these boundaries within you, you will see whether you sit, stand or sleep, you will be joyful. These must be your greatest possessions, that you're blissful. People think they have a car or a home is a big possession. No, the dollars are not the best possession to have, they're useful.
Right.
They're useful to create a certain amount of comfort for us, but the best possession to have is blissfulness. You don't have to be possessed by it, because see, we are looking at these dimensions of life or aspects of life as some kind of quantities or some kind of commodity that we must have it. You can become joyful, isn't it? I have joy in my life, what is that? Have you stored it in a balloon or a box or where? I'm asking. There's no such thing as having joy. You can become joyful, you can become loving, you can become blissful. So becoming blissful, becoming joyful, becoming peaceful, what does it mean? See, if your body becomes pleasant, we call this health. Everybody wants it. Body is pleasant right now, this is health. If it becomes very pleasant, we call it pleasure. If your mind becomes pleasant, we call this peace. If it becomes very pleasant, we call it joy. If your surroundings become pleasant, we call this success. Only to create pleasantness in your surroundings, you need the cooperation of other forces and people. Because creating pleasantness in the surroundings is a skill of a certain kind. You must be able to put many forces together, otherwise it won't work. But pleasantness of body, pleasantness of mind, pleasantness of emotion and pleasantness of energies are 100% your business, 100%. There's nobody else involved in this. But right now, we have handed this over to so many people. This is not really a story, this is what happened to me. When I was just 25 years of age, one day I was just sitting on a small hill near my native town. Further south is where we are and it's a more beautiful part of India. North is just plains, south is full of mountains. Suddenly I exploded into a state where every cell in my body was dripping ecstasy. I realized if I just don't mess with my mind, I'm ecstatic. Then after a few weeks of this experience, that it became such a profound experience for me, and then I decided I was 25 years of age, and I decided and made a plan. In the next 2.5 years, I will make the whole world ecstatic. Because it's so simple, you don't have to do anything. If you simply sit here without messing around with your mind, you're ecstatic. So I thought in 2.5 years, I made a plan how I will make the whole world ecstatic. See, now it's 39 years but that's not my idea of the world. My idea of the world is 7.6 billion people. But it took me a certain amount of time to realize how invested people are in their miseries. They're so invested that even if you show them the greatest possibility, they don't want to leave what is familiar. So why is this happening to the world? Why so much suffering? See, physical things that happen to us, there is war, there is famine, there is calamities, these are different things. Well, this causes physical pain. But right now if you look at human beings, only about 2 to 3%, maybe 5% of suffering is because of physical causes from outside. 95% is self-inflicted suffering. Physical situations can change, they need not cause suffering to us. Today, how many… for example, I'm saying, this is not against the beauty consultation, okay? For example, how many pairs of clothes your grandparents had and how many you have or this generation has, if you look at it, it's probably 5, 10 times more, isn't it? Essentially, when the caveman lived here also, he was also among them also some were happy, some were not happy. That is not because of the conditions in which they lived in, it is because of the condition of their minds, their ability to use their own faculties. What is it that human beings are suffering if you look at it? Well, they're capable of suffering what happened 10 years ago. And of course, they suffer what may happen day after tomorrow already. So this means that they are not suffering life, they are suffering two most important faculties in a human being, that is a vivid sense of memory and a fantastic sense of imagination. They are suffering these two things, which is most unfortunate, because essentially you're complaining, why have you given me so much intelligence? We're telling nature, why so much intelligence? So in Florida, people soak it in alcohol every 3 days. in the week, they keep it in alcohol,
Yep.
2 days, they
Yep.
put other kinds of chemicals, to keep the brain preserved so that it's not working too much. You have been given the most complex and sophisticated machine on the planet, that is this human mechanism. But you are trying to blunder through your life without even reading the user's manual. This is the only problem human beings have. Outside problems, we will deal with them to the extent that we can, that's all we can do. But 95% of the human suffering is all generated from within. Self-help, it's called.